Good evening. Before the program officially gets started, we want to recognize some of the individuals and organizations who helped make tonight's event possible. Please thank our event sponsors for tonight's banquet.
Autry Technology Center.
Francis Tuttle Technology Center.
And Hillary, thank you for your generous support. We also appreciate the contributions of our corporate sponsors, Phil Birkenbile and Morrison FFA, Central Technology Center, Oklahoma Farm Bureau, OKACTE, High Plains Technology Center, Metro Technology Center, Reoxinate LLC, Stride Bank,
FCS Alumni, ICEV, Spanish Cove Retirement Village, Canadian Valley Technology Center, Gilbert Insurance Agency and Tecumseh Tag Agency, Oklahoma Youth Expo, Gilbert & Sons Trucking.
Our award sponsors are Gordon Cooper Technology Center, Stomprud Appraisals, and Tulsa Technology Center. And one more thank you to our friends of the foundation, Kent and Margie Burris and Middell Technology Center.
Thank you all for making this possible. And if you'd seen the ballroom earlier today, you'd know there's been quite an impressive transformation. And it didn't just happen. Please help me thank our CareerTech state staff, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and our host, Oklahoma State University Student Union, for this beautiful venue.
The names of the individuals in this next group aren't listed in your program, but tonight's event certainly couldn't have happened without them. Would the CareerTech Hall of Fame Planning Committee please stand to be recognized? We also have several CareerTech Foundation board members with us this evening as well. Would you please stand?
Thank you for your help throughout the year. Now we have 3 students here tonight who are members of CareerTech organizations and who volunteered to serve as ushers. I'm sure you've seen them around this evening. Thank you to David Booty, FCCLA Cherokee High School, Nade Joseph, DECA, Edmond North High School, and Riley Kip, BPA, Piedmont High School. These amazing young people gave up their Thursday night to help us out, and we really appreciate that. We would also like to recognize the members of the State Board of Career and Technology Education. Would our CareerTech board members please stand? And we would like to thank the elected officials who have joined us this evening. Would you please stand? Again, thank you for everything you do for our students, our business partners, and the entire CareerTech system.
As we get ready to introduce this year's CareerTech Hall of Fame inductees, please welcome Dr. Birkenbile back to the podium.
You know, as we get ready to start these, we want to thank all of you. We want to thank the people that were nominated, the people that are eligible. We also want to remind you that we'll be doing this again in 2 years, and we need to pick another great set as these people carry a message. It's not, as you look out here, I had somebody approach me a while ago. They said, why don't you add up all the years of experience in CareerTech education in the room? I said, my God, I don't have that much time. And they said, how many people out here have over 50 years? And I said, oh, there's probably 100. And they've given their life to CareerTech education and education for Oklahomans to improve our state. And I get the information from the National Association of how many people have a state like Oklahoma's to help CareerTech and help provide jobs for people. And very few have that. Kim Green used to be the president of that, and she can tell me the stories of where this is all going in the nation. They're finding jobs, but the training's not there to train them for the jobs. But we're doing that in Oklahoma. And if, like I said before, if you pay attention to the news, you find out where there's truck driver training at Mid-Dell. You know, there's what we're doing at here at Meridian Tech, what we're doing at Pioneer Tech, what they're doing in Autry Tech to support their business and industry in the Enid area. We find this because Beaver transferred to High Plains Technology Center. Kanawha transferred to Pontotoc. They want the training for their young people to be successful. And that's what this is all about. And I appreciate all of you coming tonight. I believe every seat's filled. And the food was great. Let's give a hand to OSU. And I'm going to bring up somebody else's name. You know, we had 4 people here today, most of the day, with Andrea Hancock and Gina Hubbard, Brian Campbell. Please stand. Karen, I missed you. I'm sorry. They did a lot of this work, and they worked their fingers to the bone. It's not easy to do, to order all this stuff and get it in, because you find little things that make a mistake. Wrong color cattle, wasn't it, Randy? I believe. But, you know, there's so much fun in this room, so many good people. I could tell stories about most of the people here, and they would all be good stories about how they've provided CareerTech future direction. So we'll get into our awards. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Birkenbile. Now it's time to introduce our honorees. Please watch the video screens as we introduce our first 2024 Hall of Fame inductee, Tom Friedemann. Dr. Tom Friedemann's foray into vocational education was part accident, part by design. Following in the footsteps of his uncle and instructor, Gus Friedemann, Tom added an educational component to his marketing degree at OSU, setting the stage for when Putnam City West came calling.
Well, I was married and had a son and working the minimum wage at Cass Department Store at that time on Main Street in Stillwater. And, you know, teaching salary was a lot more than minimum wage. So I said, I'll do that. And I got into it. I just loved it. I just thought, you know, this is my calling. This is what I was meant to do.
With Friedemann at the helm, Putnam City West DECA chapter quickly rose to prominence at the state level, winning highest honors. He left teaching to come to the state agency as the state DECA advisor for a stint, but was soon called to be on the administrative team at Great Plains Technology Center. It wasn't long before Tom would soon be beckoned back to Stillwater, however, serving first as the assistant state coordinator for area VOTEC schools, then settling in as the assistant state director.
As they say, the rest is kind of history. I was just at the right place at the right time at a very early age. Made a lot of mistakes, but I had some folks who were so patient and said, hey, that's okay, you know.
Back then, the map of technology center districts looked pretty sparse compared to today. And the state director asked Tom with the tall order of filling in those blank spaces.
He said, Tom, he said, I am so tired of looking at all this white space. I want you to start filling that stuff in. And he said, whatever it takes, as much travel as you need, manpower will provide it, but just start whining and dining those local chambers of commerce, those school boards of education, and start putting in new votexials. And so that's what we did. That was a big focus, and that's probably one of the most rewarding things I'd have to say in my career that I did was going to places like Woodward, Altus, Notmogi, and Ada.
In addition to his work filling in that map, Friedemann became a staunch advocate for vocational education among inmates. He became the subject of his doctoral dissertation and attracted the attention of another CareerTech legend, State Senator Jim E. Hamilton.
That was very rewarding to see his eyes light up when he said, "This is what I've been trying to tell my folks over here, my colleagues here, that this isn't money wasted." He told me, he said, there isn't a better form of economic development than turning a tax user into a taxpayer. And that's what we're doing. Those guys don't come back.
He would leave the state agency again in 1997 and move to Francis Tuttle Technology Center, first as their chief of staff, and then taking on the role of superintendent in 2009. As important as Dr. Friedemann's official roles throughout the system were, he's equally known for his vast knowledge of CareerTech, chronicling agency history and presenting it through writing and presentations. A de facto role he stumbled into, almost by accident, courtesy of Larry Hansen.
Anyway, Larry was asked to do a Lions Club presentation in Altus, Oklahoma. And so the day before that, he developed laryngitis. And so he comes to me and he said, "Tom, as best as I can understand, he said, "Tom, I can't do this presentation at Altus. Will you do it for me? I need you to go out to Altus and do it like the day before." Evidently, I did a good enough job to where it became my job from that point on, talking about CareerTech. Whenever somebody would want a presentation on CareerTech, I don't know that if you get star status by just reporting it, but all I did was just listen and try to remember as much. And I would take notes. After I'd get home, I'd write stuff down, and said, "Larry said this, Dr. Tuttle said that, Arch said that." And but I had no idea I'd write a book about it someday.
That book, The Stars Aligned and the Rest is History, came out earlier this year. But that isn't the first book he wrote. Since his retirement in 2019, Dr. Friedemann enjoys watching his 8 grandchildren grow, catching as many OSU ball games as possible, and if he's not fishing, he's probably writing about fishing.
And so I retired, and I immediately went to the computer and just started writing my book based on about 60 years of fishing logs. And I've written 2 since that, and then, but that's been very rewarding. So there were just, I guess every time I was out, I'd see these lakes and these rivers, I think, so many fish, so little time, that's an old saying, but it was just time I thought, I better do it now, I'm gonna be too old to fish, and
Tom's detailed record keeping of all things personal and professional ensures the CareerTech story will continue on for years to come, with Tom's own legacy tied to it.
And I always hope that we never lose sight that all this could go away. With Dr. Tuttle and Arch Alexander and Larry Hansen and Dewey Bartlett and all those guys worked so hard to try to get together, I hope they say he helped make sure that we never lose sight of how important it is. If we're not aware of the history that we had, the life and death situations that we encountered and endured and overcame, and we just need to keep serving customers. So,
congratulations to Dr. Tom Friedemann, 2024 inductee into the CareerTech Hall of Fame.
from Ohio. You've been very dear friends throughout the years, and I thank you so much for being here this evening. And then finally, I told you there's a lot of folks that put this turtle on this fence post, but there's my made for a Hallmark movie family, beginning with my beautiful wife and soulmate, Cindy. What a wonderful asset she is to me professionally, socially, and emotionally. And Cindy had a remarkable career in Votech in her own right. I won't go into how many times following her advice always turned out to be a good thing, and how not following it usually turned out to be a bad thing. But I think I'm finally beginning to get it. Both my son and daughter have become super successful entrepreneurs, and they're here this evening with their families. Son Jim is here with his beautiful wife, Kim. They gave us 3 wonderful granddaughters, Jordan, Audrey, and Olivia. I'm very proud to say that Jordan is a band teacher at Cimarron Middle School in Edmond, so the teaching tradition in our family goes on for another generation. And Audrey, she's my fly fishing buddy, and she's already exceeded my skills in fly tying. And Olivia is a freshman this year majoring in flute performance at the University of North Texas. And daughter Carrie is here with her husband, Jason. And not to be outdone, they gave us 3 wonderful grandsons, Nathan, Noah, and Nicholas. Nicholas is a high school senior this year and has already told us he's going to OSU next year. Older brother Nathan is an OSU grad and just got a great job in Tulsa, so it's going to be great to have him a little closer to Grandpa's house on Arcadia Lake. And Noah is here with his fiancée, Abby. Now get this, Noah and Abby are not only high school and college sweethearts, they are elementary school sweethearts. They'll both graduate from OSU in December. You're bound to recognize them when you see them because they look like they were the models for those little figurines they put on a wedding cake. So you'll notice when you see them. Abby, we are so excited to have you in our family. And by the way, Abby is currently doing her student teaching at Richmond Elementary School here in Stillwater, so we'll have yet another teacher in the family. My sister Susan is here this evening. Susan also followed Uncle Gus's footsteps and became a marketing education teacher and went on to have a great career in 3 different states. And finally, I have a table full of cousins here this evening. Both my parents came from large families, so I have a ton of cousins, and we're all very close, probably much more like brothers and sisters. Thank you guys for being here this evening. I think it's table 31. Appreciate you very much. Uncle Gus's son Frank is in here, and so I know Frank would appreciate seeing his dad up there on that screen. It's been a wonderful 49-year career. Can you imagine that? That's nearly a half century. That's 49 summer conferences. Yeah. When I started, they were 5-day deals. I think they call them summits now, but if you count the 2 times during my retirement that the good folks at Oklahoma ACT asked me to be a speaker at one of the sessions, that number grows to 51 summits. That has to be some kind of record. Let me close by saying that 2 years ago, I had surgery to repair a torn rotator cuff, and I spent a lot of time trying to develop the skill of sleeping on a recliner. If you've ever had rotator cuff surgery, you know what I'm talking about. I wasn't very successful at it and wound up spending many late night hours watching old Turner classic movies on TV. In one of those movies, I recall someone saying that when they graduated from high school, that their generation was going to change the world and eliminate all the bad things that previous generations could never quite figure out. Things like crime, poverty, disease, social injustice. But then life happened. Marriage, kids, careers, and all at once those things quickly went out the window and you lost all that idealism and direction in your life. Well, I guess that's why so many of us in this room tonight chose to be a teacher, because you never lose that sense of idealism and optimism. We, as CareerTech educators, are in fact changing the world one student at a time by giving them their ticket to an American dream. And that ticket is a marketable skill that leads to a great career and results into a life well lived. And it would never have happened had it not been for a CareerTech teacher. And we get to do it every single day. What a wonderful vocation to be in. Thank you again for this honor this evening. I truly feel blessed beyond measure.
Congratulations, Tom. Now I'd like you to turn your attention once again to the video screens as we introduce our next Hall of Fame inductee, Randy Gilbert.
Randy Gilbert didn't begin life in Oklahoma, but he put down roots here early on. As a child, his family migrated from Arkansas. Though his father didn't plan on staying here long, they ended up purchasing 10 acres of land in Tecumseh, sparking Randy's love for the community and agriculture.
I always tell my dad bought a truck and a house in Tecumseh all on the same day in 1971, and that's 53 years ago, and that's where we're still at.
Randy credits the relationships he fostered in FFA to be pivotal in his upbringing and enriched the life of his family in Tecumseh. He entered OSU, a bit unsure of his path, but thanks to those relationships, he soon realized his calling.
Raymond Cochran was one of them. Whenever they call and they ask you to volunteer and judge and help and work with some of the younger kids that are in high school then, and it just was automatic, pretty simple that I wanted to grow up and be an ag teacher. I wanted to have those experiences. I wanted to see those young kids, those young adults grow up and give back.
Gilbert graduated OSU in 1983 and headed for Lawton, teaching ag there for 5 years and experiencing the competition and camaraderie among schools in southwestern Oklahoma, and fostering a friendly rivalry with an ag teacher in nearby Elgin, CareerTech Hall of Famer Kent Boggs.
Mr. Boggs was a great friend, is a great friend, certainly a mentor to me, but yes, he was very competitive. He would help you with your kids, how to write speeches, for your kids to write speeches, for your kids to learn about parliamentary procedure, but whenever you got to the contest, you were on your own because he was very competitive. So, but though when it was over, he would teach you and he would help you to be better the next time.
Through it all, Gilbert has definitely seen the legacy of his investment firsthand.
Being in the classroom was a great experience. Some of the kids I had then still have great relationships with them. Some of my students that I had back in the 80s, now then I've had the opportunity and the ability to work with their kids. So it's all about relationships and all about doing something positive.
While Gilbert returned to Tecumseh in 1988 to oversee his family's trucking and warehouse business, he kept giving back by way of service on numerous boards within agriculture, public education, and private industry. He served on the CareerTech State Board for more than 20 years, or 3 governors, if you're counting.
My district supervisor back then told us as teachers, and certainly me as a teacher, said if you can have true impact on one student in your entire career, then you've been very successful. That's something that we remember, and that's something we work with still. Still today, I've been very fortunate to be on the CareerTech State Board, and that's a reminder to me when I sit in those meetings and we see all the things that CareerTech has to offer. What is it we can do for that next student? What is it we can do for that next person to make them a better person, to have a true impact on their life?
So, what fills Randy Gilbert's tank after the rigors of the 24/7 trucking and warehousing grind? Well, you might find him tending to his limousine. The cattle, not the stretch Cadillac.
We run some cattle, and those cattle that we have are the greatest therapists you'll ever have. We spend time with them. I can go on the weekends. I can go in the evenings, spend time with the cattle. Both our girls showed cattle. I mean, we have grandkids that show cattle, and a little bit of a pride moment is whenever you take cattle, cattle up out of your own pasture and you take them to a show, either a state show or a national show, and you're very proud of them, and your kids are proud of them, and your grandkids are proud of them. That's a good feeling. It makes you feel warm inside.
Randy says he found his personal mission statement on an old glass soda bottle. something he heard at FFA alumni camp as a young man.
No deposit, no return. You have to invest in it to get the return, and we certainly believe that FFA and CareerTech is worth the investment for the return. I mean, we certainly appreciate the ones that helped us get here, and so we want to pay it forward. We want to do what it is to pay it forward.
Congratulations to CareerTech Hall of Fame 2024 inductee Randy Gilbert.
Help me congratulate and welcome honoree Randy Gilbert.
Thank you very much. Blaine, thanks for the video. You know, we were supposed to do the slimmer version, but we didn't quite get there, but we're going to work on that. Thank you to the Oklahoma CareerTech Foundation for the opportunity to be with this group. Very honored and actually very humbled to be part of the Hall of Fame. You know, when you look at the videos and you look at the people where their names roll by the script and you know, you see those names and you think, wow, those were mentors to so many of us. They were people that we looked up to, and for some of us, we continue to look up to them. And we're just, you know, I mean, I'm very proud. Congratulations to the other honorees that are here this evening. What an honor to be with this group. There's five other individuals that are very good and very talented and have certainly given so much to Oklahoma CareerTech. You know, whenever I got the call from Dr. Birkenbaugh, you know, we all have a cell phone now. It's got a name deal on it. And so whenever I got the call from Dr. Phil, I was like, okay, so we have a project. We have something really good we're going to do. And because he has great vision, continues to have great vision for CareerTech. And Suzanne and I were in the house, and we were, you know, the place to hang out's in the kitchen. So we were standing in the kitchen, and whenever he was talking to me, well, I had to go sit down. So she was a little concerned, and I said, "You're really not going to believe what that call was about." So, Dr. Birkenbaugh, thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do. What a great group's here this evening. As Tom mentioned, there's a lot of wonderful people here that have given so much to CareerTech, continue to give to CareerTech, but and it was also exciting for me. Our youngest daughter, very exciting, was a state FFA officer a few years ago. So I see her and Brandon and Kyle Hilbert. They're all in the back, and they're visiting. Jack, now you're not going to appreciate this. So they're in the back, and I think, well, they're catching up with each other, and they're kind of telling stories. Well, I see Annie Jo handing out critique sheets for speech contest, and on the top it has number 2 and number 6. So I didn't really know what that meant till Gina gave us a speaking order. and I thought, well, now about that. And then Gina Hubbard hands them a stopwatch. And so I think, well, so I almost know where this is going. So Speaker Hilbert, I hope you give us the highest scores before we get done. So, and that might have used to have been my favorite state FFA officer team, but Jack will read the score sheets when it's over. So, so many of us that are here, we certainly did not get here by ourselves. CareerTech's a wonderful org. organization. We use the term CareerTech family occasionally. We are involved in a wonderful group of people that have a common goal in mind to create the next generation of workers, the next generation of leadership, the next generation of people that have vision for what it is to live in a great state of Oklahoma. And arguably so, Oklahoma CareerTech is the #1 CareerTech in the United States. So, but we all know that. Certainly myself, I would not be here today if it wasn't for, we have a group of our FFA mentors that are here. Thank you guys all for coming. Several are the Hall of Fame, some were in that picture. But I know when I talk about how we got here and the individuals involved, we first met Raymond Cockrum in 1971. And I believe, Mr. Cockrum, that's 53 years ago. And when he came, he's here this evening, though, and I certainly appreciate everything you've done for me and my family. But, you know, when he came, he still had something positive to say, and kind of give me a goal in mind where I keep moving forward. So thank you for that, Mr. Cockrum. But I mean, again, we all would not be here without our help. You know, I heard Director Haken up on the podium a little earlier. Director Haken does a great job. He has great vision. He has a goal and growth in mind for Oklahoma CareerTech. I believe, if I'm correct, Director, this year we've grown. We have over 5,000 CareerTech instructors. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 students involved that you all have an effect on. We have 29 CareerTech centers. They're all really good, but Gordon Cooper, you know, I hate to sing out to them, but while I'm at the microphone. So, but we have CareerTech programs in almost 400 high schools out of the 550 in the state of Oklahoma. So just imagine the footprint that CareerTech has. Again, we would not be here without all of you and all the support groups that we have. I saw Sky McNeil somewhere, and Sky does a great job. She has vision. She does not like to be recognized, but Sky has vision that has helped CareerTech from the time she was a student. She's a product of the program, so we appreciate that. We can honestly say that CareerTech has a great direction. Thank you to Eddie Hillary. That's a board member. Eddie has great vision. He looks forward. Marilyn Harrell's here, who was a former board member, and her husband Jimmy have great vision for Oklahoma and for CareerTech, for the education side of it. My family, very fortunate, Suzanne and Annie Jo are here. We're all products of the CareerTech program. Suzanne grew up in southeastern Oklahoma, and they didn't allow them to be an FFA till a much later time than it was approved legally. But she grew up in FHA. Annie Jo's a product of the FFA program, as I am. We'd like to thank the Griffith family that's here as well. They're, you know, I mean, they're huge for what we do. The Oklahoma State staff, JC's with the foundation. So Thank you for what you do. We, I was moving some hay this weekend, and as we're finishing up moving hay, I'm thinking about, I'm hearing the radio, I'm listening to the radio, and Randy Travis was playing a song on the radio, and one of the lines that stuck out for me in that song was, in this life, it's not what we take, it's in this life, it's what we leave behind. So we're going to leave behind a great system. We have great individuals involved. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you again to the foundation for allowing us to be honorees. Thank you.
Congratulations again, Randy Gilbert. Our next inductee, our third inductee into the CareerTech Hall of Fame, is Velta Reed Johnson. Velta Reed Johnson was a farm girl raised in McLean County. She graduated from Wayne High School among a class of 39 students, and her initial path in life was inspired by one of her teachers.
So I guess it really goes back to high school with Mrs. Wallace, who was my home ec teacher for 4 years. I thought that was a pretty neat job.
Velta taught in Forgan, Washington, and then Harrah, where she took an interest in the administration side of education. At that time, it was a field traditionally headed by men. She decided the best way to start gaining ground was to go directly to the superintendent.
I walked in and introduced myself and said, I want to be an administrator someday. What are your suggestions? And he kindly took me under his wing and said, the first thing you need to do is go enroll in the doctoral program and get your certifications. I loved teaching, but I knew I didn't want to teach forever. And I guess kind of always second guessed some of my administrators and thought I could do a better job. I'm bossy.
True to form, Velta completed those requirements and became the first female administrator in Harrah Public Schools, and it only grew from there. In 1979, she was hired to help build Eastern Oklahoma Technology Center from the ground up as the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Programs.
Used the State Department of CareerTech, and I asked them to identify programs across the state that were exemplary programs that I could visit and talk to the instructors about equipment, about all the things needed. So basically, I just emulated what was going on in the other schools that were really good.
Meanwhile, outside the tech centers, there were more challenges. She was widowed in her early 30s and raised her 2 stepchildren when their mother passed away. And at 41, she was diagnosed with cancer.
I offered to resign because I thought, there's a job to be done. And the board president said, no way. You did not ask for the disease. You go get well and come back. And I've carried that through as an administrator in how I dealt with people who got sick. And for my chemo, I had to be hospitalized. But I worked from the hospital because I was not that sick. I held meetings with people from the State Department and the State Department of Ed, and I said, if they can talk to me in a nightgown, I can do business. So I carried on.
And so, despite those hardships, her career continued. In 1984, Velta became the first female superintendent in the CareerTech system. She was breaking glass ceilings, all the while supported by CareerTech pioneer, Dr. Frances Tuttle.
Dr. Tuttle told me later that the board president called and said, Frances, our best candidate is a woman. What do we do? And he said, "You hire her." So, if that kind of does that give you a feel for, if Dr. Tuttle says she's okay, she's okay. And my parents raised me to believe that there wasn't anything I couldn't do. If I wanted to, I could do it. I kind of looked around and I saw a lot of men who were in administration, and I kind of thought I could do a better job, or at least as good a job. And I also figured out they retired a whole lot better financially than old teachers.
Johnston retired as Pioneer Technology Center Superintendent in 1997 after more than 30 years of service to the Oklahoma CareerTech system. But she didn't slow down. Today, Velta devotes her time and administrative talents to the retirement village where she resides in Yukon.
I'm chairman of the board here at Spanish Cove. It keeps me quite involved. Not only deal, in charge of board meetings, but work pretty closely with the CEO. Once a superintendent, I guess always a superintendent.
As Velta blazed her own trail into the world of education administration, she always kept her eyes forward to what her legacy would mean to other women who would follow in her footsteps.
That was always something that was in the back of my mind was, if you mess up, no other woman may get a chance. I am so thrilled to look and see how many women now are superintendents in the CareerTech.
Congratulations to Velta Reed Johnston, 2024 inductee into the CareerTech Hall of Fame.
Well, my first question is, who is that old woman that invaded my living room? So, I guess stuff happens. But I have so many people to thank for being here, but I want to begin with Dr. Gala Lutz, with help from Dr. Greg Winters, because I know they pulled together my letter of to be inducted. So I appreciate them very much. I also have to thank the late Dr. Bill Phillips. Bill took a chance on me and hired me as the assistant superintendent to help build Eastern Oklahoma County from the ground up, and then he turned me loose. And we had a lot of fun. Bob Peak, Bill, and I literally built that school. I got lots of stories to tell on Bill and Bob Peak. Some are not appropriate. I also want to thank Dr. Francis Tuttle for his visionary understanding of Title IX and his foresight in developing a cadre of leaders that included women. He looked around in the early 80s and saw that there were going to be a number of leadership positions available statewide, and he developed the Administrator Development Program, and he saw to it that women were involved in that program. Charlotte Garrett Edwards, Fern Green Bolding, and the late Dr. Ann Benson were in that group with me. I think you all will admit that that's a pretty fine group of women. I also want to thank the boards of education who hired me, like the president from Western who really wondered about hiring a woman, but we did fine. And also to all of the employees of Eastern Oklahoma County Tech Center, Western Votech, and Pioneer, because you all know, those of you in administration, if those of you who are hired to work with you don't do a good job, you can't succeed no matter what. And it seemed like every time I'd been on a road trip, which is when you live in Burns Flat, it's a road trip, and I would come back and I would say, I've been thinking. Well, they would scatter like a covey of quail first, and then come back and find out what it was I'd been thinking about. So we had some pretty good things going, but those folks who worked for me and with me are to be commended. I also want to thank my families who are here tonight to support me, members of the Johnston family and the Garrett families are here. And I have supporters from my Edmond family and my church family. And I want to tell you that my Edmond friend ran a marathon to find my cards, which were in my purse. So thank you, Steve. And then I have my Wayne High School family here. A fellow classmate of mine from that class of 58, Sue Chandler Perry. Sue, stand up. If you can. Yeah, okay. But she is here really as the guest of her daughter. Now, I went into education. Sue became a homemaker and all of those things and had children. One of those children is Terry Helvey, who is this year's Arch Alexander Award winner. And for those of you who are not in the CareerTech family, the Arch Alexander Award is one of the very highest awards that you can be presented to in the CareerTech. So congratulations, Terry. Then my special Spanish Cove family. Don Blows, the CEO, has been so supportive in every way to make sure that tonight is special for me, as has Jill Huff in marketing. We brought a contingent, I think we got 2 full tables, of staff members and our Spanish Cove, on our Spanish Cove coach. So, just look out there and see that nice bus. So, we're still paying for it, so if anybody wants to know that. And in case anybody wants information about the very best nonprofit CCRC in Oklahoma, which was started by retired educators, just ask. We're more than happy to say, see that table right there and that one in the back? We got stuff, we can tell you. I must note, I'm not the first Spanish Cove resident to be in the Hall of Fame. Edna Crow was inducted a number of years ago. And in the last conversation I had with Edna, she said, "Is my picture still hanging?" And I assured her I was. Well, I got to tell you all, if you decide to take those pictures down, Edna will haunt you. So she was very proud of this honor. And I will say that we had other retired Votech, and I call them Votechers, who chose Spanish Cove. When I decided to move in, Joyce Thompson-Pybus, Lenora Polk, and Dr. Tuttle's sister-in-law, Elsie Hunter, along with Edna Crow, were residents. And I thought, hey, if it's good enough for those women, it's good enough for me. Because I worked with those three women, those three home ec supervisors, and I knew their standards. So we have, in addition to that, we have one other retired votecher with us tonight, Carl Sanders. You want to wave, Carl? Carl was in the air conditioning refrigeration program at Middale. So finally, thank you to Andrea Hancock, Gina Hubbard, and Blaine Singletary for organizing such an incredible event. And I will tell you that they worked diligently around my weird schedule to get the things done. If I'm not really quite as crippled as I look, because I'm stupid. I pulled a really stupid trick. I'm a retired home ec teacher. I still love my sewing machine. So one day I sat down for 2 hours and quilted and didn't get up. I've been down about 6 weeks since. So, so I am on the honor system with the therapist that I don't get to quilt more than 20 minutes at a time. So thank you again. Thank you to all who came here this evening, and thank you for this honor.
Congratulations, Belta. Now, once again, watch the video screens as we pay tribute to Hall of Fame inductee, Denise Morris. CareerTech Hall of Fame inductee Denise Morris always wanted to be a teacher. But as a young teenager planning her future, English was her passion.
Junior high, I enrolled in home economics back then and had some fantastic teachers. And then when I went to high school at Chisholm, very fortunate to have B. Paul as a teacher, and she pushed you to do lots of things. Then I joined FHA as a sophomore and really liked the organization. Fun fact, ran for a state office and did not win. And I didn't really get the gist of that. I was like, okay, I didn't win. But I guess maybe that's where the rest of it came from. I just love the organization and what it stood for.
In her senior year at Chisholm High School, she was president of the school's FHA Hero Chapter. She went on to Oklahoma State University and was named top 10 senior in the College of Home Economics. She student taught under FACS instructor Virginia Sasser. Virginia would later become FCCLA's state advisor, and it was a career path Denise would soon follow. She landed her first teaching job at Helena Gultry, which is now Timberlake. She later returned to her alma mater, Chisholm, and taught for nearly a decade. She was Teacher of the Year at both schools, but despite her love of teaching, her dream job was still out there.
One time we were at a contest, a Farmers Union speech contest, and she was there judging. And she said, Denise, you know, you're the kind of person I'd want to have my job someday. I said, you know, Virginia, your job is the only job I would have there. And, you know, she was retiring, and I thought, okay, this is as good a time as any. So applied, interviewed, and was hired.
Under Denise's legacy, FCCLA had 13 national officers, including one national president. When she retired in 2020, she set up a scholarship.
It's for Summer Leadership Summit, and it's to help put that on for new members. I kind of feel like once those students get a taste of what FCCLA is, then they're hooked. And so then they continue going to leadership activities, trying new things. They get to learn all about FCCLA and then kind of figure out what they want to do in it.
She gave it all to her dream job right up until her retirement.
I hoped that they would remember that I put everything I had into that career, that I loved students, I loved the teachers, that Oklahoma FCCLA grew from what it was when I started to what it became when I finished. I wanted the person who took my place to take that and grow it more.
And while her successor is doing that, Denise continues to be involved in family and consumer sciences and FCCLA. She occasionally substitute teaches at Autry Technology Center and at Chisholm High School, where it all started.
I like kids. I like students. I like, asking them questions and making them get out of their box.
When she's not teaching kids or judging county fair projects, she's at ball games and other activities with her husband Rick and their kids and grandkids. She loves to travel, another passion with roots in FCCLA. Congratulations to Denise Morris, inducted into the 2024 CareerTech Hall of Fame.
Welcome Hall of Fame inductee Denise Morris.
I'm amazed at the number of people that are here, and I appreciate Velta and Spanish Cove because when I first started at the agency, Edna Ruth Mahaffey, Donna Cates, Cindy Oldham, who I think was one of your students, was there, and I don't know if it was a joke, but we always said, when we grow old and retire, we're all moving to Spanish Cove because that's where all the great facts people were at. So I want to say thank you to everyone who came to celebrate tonight. It's such an honor to be a part of this Hall of Fame class. I am truly honored and deeply humbled to receive this award. I was blessed to have worked at something that I loved and was my passion for 35 years. As a classroom teacher, FCCLA was where I got to see my students succeed. They embraced community service opportunities, learned communication skills, and loved the competition of star events. A few of them also experienced the excitement of serving as a district or state officer. My philosophy as an advisor to members who wanted to try was somebody has to win, it might as well be us. We didn't always win, but the goal was to teach the students to lose with dignity and win with grace. I knew the skills that they learned through FCCLA activities would benefit them in everyday life. My journey in career tech started in junior high when I enrolled in my first home economics class. I had been a member of 4-H since 4th grade and really enjoyed the family and consumer sciences projects. I wasn't introduced to FHA until high school, where I met my most favorite teacher, B. Paul, and I'm so excited she's here tonight. She made the classroom a welcoming place and helped me come out of my shell. If B asked you to do something, you did it. I remember demonstrating microwaves at a local appliance store when microwaves were first on the market, so that's how old I am. Giving a co-op speech when I knew nothing about co-ops, and getting on a bus to go to a leadership camp in Missouri where I knew no one. My shell was quickly broken. I had the good fortune to student teach under Virginia Sasser, who is also here tonight, who believed in baptism by fire. I observed one day in her classroom and taught 2 classes the next. No time wasted because there were only 8 weeks of student teaching to prepare you for the career. Virginia went on to become the Oklahoma FHA Hero Advisor and State Advisor. And when she decided to retire and the State Advisor position came open, I jumped at the opportunity to apply. After accepting the position, my first day on the job consisted of a state staff meeting, several hours in HR, and a welcome luncheon provided by the fact staff. At the end of the day, I was handed a mailbox with instructions to go to Romanos the next day, meet my new state officer team, and find G.T. Moody. Once again, the baptism by fire began my new career. I did know how to get to Romanos, but had no idea what to do with a mailbox or who G.T. Moody was. One thing you can count on in education, and especially FCCLA, is change. In my first year as state advisor, the organization name changed from FHA Hero to FCCLA. The state agency name changed from VOTEC to CareerTech, and Oklahoma was selected as one of 10 states who would serve as a pilot state for the new national program Stop the Violence. One of the best things about this job is the change of officer teams each year. State officers always ask if their officer team is the best, and what I can tell you is that each one was different and definitely had their own personality. I do believe that God put each team together to teach me a lesson and was exactly what I needed at the time. Did we laugh? Yes. Did we cry? Yes. Did we get frustrated or mad at each other? Yes. But in the end, they made Oklahoma FCCLA what it is today, with each team building on the last. The thrill for me was to see where a team started and how they grew throughout the year. Oklahoma FCCLA is known for doing things first. We had competitions before national, recognized post-secondary students as members, and created a fully functioning state alumni association, who a lot of the board members are here tonight. Thank you to the dedicated and passionate board members who bought into a vision that was started by a few legendary advisors more than 25 years ago. Because of the hard work of the board, there are numerous scholarships and monies available for chapter projects, advisor staff development, travel, and student education. I was fortunate to follow former state advisors who left their own legacy on the organization and set Oklahoma FCCLA up for success. My successes have not only come from having the best advisors, members, and state staff to work with, but from the support of my family. I could not have done this job without my husband, Rick, who was always by my side. My daughters, who understood my passion to help students succeed, which meant giving up time with them, and my mom and dad, who never told me I couldn't. You all cheered me on at each step, and they deserve the real recognition. Lastly, I want to acknowledge the other outstanding individuals who received this award. I share this recognition with you, and I'm inspired by all that you do. Many of you have touched my life in countless ways and will always have a special place in my heart. Thank you for this tremendous honor and the opportunity to be a part of the Oklahoma CareerTech Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Denise. And now, ladies and gentlemen, turn to the video screens once more as we honor our next inductee, Dr. Joe Robinson.
Joe Robinson grew up in the Hawkeye State with his sister. Their dad was a typesetter for the Des Moines Register and Tribune, and their mom worked for Bell Telephone. Joe's passion for CareerTech was sparked in high school when he enrolled in business education courses. He went on to major in business education and marketing at the University of Northern Iowa.
And I had an advisor by the name of Roger Ditzenberger who said, you know, you need to look at teaching. You need to get your teaching credentials. I think you'd be very good at that. And so I took a few extra courses, and after that I got my teaching credential and went out and taught my first year.
After that year, Joe knew he was on the right career path.
I really like to be in the classroom, either high school, I did teach post-secondary, and then a lot of teacher education at the university level. So yes, I enjoyed the teaching very much and working with students.
Uncle Sam, on the other hand, had other plans.
That was during the Vietnam era, and some people will not remember, but they had a lottery system based on a number. And I drew a low number. So they actually drafted me right out of my high school teaching in March. And so I spent 2 years in the military. Ended up going, I was on my way to Vietnam and ended up going to Korea instead. I actually ran into a person that I knew from college who had was responsible for assigning people jobs overseas. And he said, how would you like to go to Korea instead of Vietnam? And I said, I would love it.
After his tour, Joe returned to UNI for his master's degree. He graduated and returned to teaching while he worked on his doctorate, teaching in Illinois, Missouri, and Wyoming. In 1983, Jim Strait introduced Joe to a unique vocational education system and offered him a job in Oklahoma as campus director at Great Plains Technology Center.
All the CareerTech programs, the vocational programs, were in the high school. And so the students never had the opportunity to get specific. There was very little industry support at that point, and that's another advantage of the technology system in Oklahoma is the industry support. Because of the way it was managed and the way it was set up, industry is very, very supportive, both with financial and personnel.
Great Plains was followed by Tulsa Tech and Indian Capital Tech Center. Then Joe served 3 years as vice president at Connors State College, but he returned to CareerTech as Meridian Tech's assistant superintendent. Meanwhile, Joe squeezed in time for another personal passion, Oklahoma's Special Olympics. He served on the International States Leadership Council. After Meridian, Joe's next move was to the State Department as Field Services Coordinator until he retired. Retirement means different things to different people, however, and Joe isn't one to let grass grow under his feet. He took a long-distance job as assistant principal in Arizona. When that commute began taking its toll, he retired a second time, briefly, relaxing at his Grand Lake condo.
Steve Tiger, who's now the superintendent at Tulsa Tech, was in charge of the Field Technology Center services, and I got a call from him, and he said, we've got an opening coming up. Are you interested? And I thought, yeah, why not go leave retirement again? And so came down and came back in the second time and again interviewed and received the job as a field service coordinator back at the State Department.
So retirement was postponed again for about 10 years. Joe also added adjunct faculty member at Oklahoma State to his resume. In 2013, Joe and his wife Judy received one of CareerTech's most prestigious honors, the Arch Alexander Award.
It was the first time that the Arch Alexander Award had ever been given to a husband and wife combined at the same time. So very, very honored but very surprised at the same time. So.
Finally, in 2016, Joe tried to retire for about the third time. He and his wife moved to Colorado to spend time with family, including their 5 grandsons. Joe tinkers with his model trains, does a little landscaping at the new house, and drives through the mountains around Castle Rock with the top down on his bright red Corvette. Life in Colorado is not all yard work and football games for Joe, of course. After multiple failed retirements, Joe volunteers with CareerTech programs in the Douglas County School District in Castle Rock.
What I missed a lot was the interaction with individuals and the interaction with students. And so now knowing typically all the CareerTech people in the system, but all the administrators in Douglas County, it's given me the opportunity to call up and say, hey, let's go have lunch.
A working lunch, of course, because there are still lessons to be taught and careers to be shaped, and Joe Robinson is the man to do it. Congratulations to Joe Robinson, 2024 Hall of Fame inductee.
Help me welcome Joe Robinson to the stage.
First off, I had to see if I could read this without my glasses. That's one of the disadvantages of getting older. I think I'm okay. Jack, I'm not sure that going the last 2 is good for either one of us, to be honest with you, after what we've seen so far, but we'll make it. We'll get through. Before I begin, I need to probably tell you a story, and Connie will relate to this. When I came in and did my interview at the agency, of course, we live in Colorado now, so it wasn't a matter of coming in and going back and getting it done over again. We started the interview, and we were probably, what, Connie, 10 minutes in, maybe 5 minutes in. Connie said, okay, we're done. She said, you've got to take your shoes off. I was so nervous that I didn't realize I was clicking my feet on the floor. So Connie said it's the first time she's ever had an inductee who had to take their shoes off to get through their interview, but we did it. They never would have known. They never would have known, but I figured I had to tell. One of the questions I get a lot, and there are about 3 or 4 of us in this room, is how did you get to Oklahoma? Well, I'm going to give you a little background, and then we will eventually get to that point, which will include Dr. Jim Strait. But again, what a great honor to be part of the CareerTech Hall of Fame family. For several years, working with my staff at the CareerTech, we did a lot of CareerTech leadership groups, and we used the Hall of Fame as a major discussion point in our focus on leadership. It's hard to believe that now my picture is going to be on that wall with that group that we use, the leadership. My connection to CareerTech began at Lincoln High School in Des Moines, Iowa, where I enrolled in business education classes. And to be honest, if my mother was alive, she would tell you this. One of the reasons I enrolled in business education, because that classroom was the closest to the lunchroom. And so had nothing to do with the class necessarily, but I continued to take business education classes. And continued my interest in career education, I attended the University of Northern Iowa, where I received a bachelor's degree in business education and accounting, and where I received my master's degree in distributive education and marketing. As you heard on this film, I was lucky enough during my master's program to have the privilege of working with Dr. Roger Ditzenberger, who at that time was nationally recognized in the development of distributive education curriculum. I then taught distributive education at Rich Township High School in Park Forest, Illinois for 2 years. And as you again saw on the film, that was interrupted for 2 years with the U.S. Army deciding that I needed to spend some time with them. But I did go back to Park Forest on that. I kind of had a laugh at me when I was looking at that picture, seeing all the guys in the leisure suits. Some of you may not even know what a leisure suit is. Some of you younger folks, but some of you folks my age will know what that is. And there were several of us wearing those. After leaving Rich Township, I spent my next 3 years working on a doctorate degree at the University of Missouri with a great mentor by the name of Dr. John Elias, and those of you in distributive education will recognize his name. This is where I met Dr. Jim Strait, who happens to be here tonight, who I can thank for getting me into the state. He was working at the State Department of Education in Jefferson City, Missouri, which is about, probably 40 miles away. We do tell the story of Jim and I having a couple meetings where I went to Jeff City and he came to Columbia, and we never did have the meetings, but it shows how much we communicated. Jim did teach me a couple things, though. He had been in the state a while. He had been working on his degree a little bit longer than I had. And probably the 2 things that I learned from him was, number 1, you never attend your evening statistics class without spending some time drinking a adult beverage before class. That does help to get through. And secondly, as Jim did his dissertation, defended his dissertation before me, and explained that it was okay to put your dog's name in the acknowledgement of your dissertation. And there's a story behind that. Also during that time, my wife Judy did learn something from Jim's wife Sharon. Sharon introduced her to what fried okra was. Judy had no clue. And Judy's tried to make fried okra since then, and we have not been successful. So, after leaving Missouri, I did accept a position as associate professor at the University of Wyoming. As you can tell, I have not got to Oklahoma yet. We're working on it. But again, some things happen for the right reasons, and which is how I got to Oklahoma. There was a call from Jim one day saying there was a business industry position available at Great Plains Technology Center, and he encouraged me to apply for the position. I thought about it. I said, well, why not? I had been in Lawton in the military and spent some time there. But Judy and I jumped in the car. We're in Wyoming now at this point. And loaded our girls up, and we headed to Lawton, where I interviewed with Jim and Mike Bailey, and fortunately received the position. It was a very nice interview. It was at Jim's house over steaks and some adult beverages. But it was a good interview, and Some of you probably don't know Mike Bailey. Mike was in the state for a while as superintendent at Great Plains. I could have not have come to Oklahoma at a better time. The system was beginning to incorporate more business and workforce opportunities. I feel lucky that I got to meet and learn from some of the original superintendents. Some names you will recognize: John Hopper, Bill Powers, Bill Phillips, and Ken Phelps, some of our original superintendents. And I had the incredible opportunity to work at Tulsa Tech with Dr. Joe Lemley, who at that time was superintendent. Along with these incredible superintendents, there were a group of administrators with distributive education backgrounds. And Tom, I'm going to kind of repeat what Tom said. This group was known as the Distributive Education Mafia. What we had to get away from was what was at sometimes the high schools being called DECA teachers. Tom, you remember that? You were not a distributive education teacher, you were a DECA teacher. So, but it all worked out. Some of those individuals included Dr. Jim Strait, Dr. Mike Bailey, Dr. Bruce Gray, Dr. Gene Callahan, Dr. Tom Friedemann, Dr. Roy Peters, and Dr. Kay Martin. I visited with Gene this week. He was not able to attend tonight, and he said to be sure and bring up the fact, and this is coming right from Gene Callahan, that 4 of us, myself, Jim, Gene, and Kay, all had distributive education backgrounds, and we all came from out of state. So all 4 of us had the backgrounds and came from out of state, and now all 4 of us are in the Hall of Fame. We are all should be very proud of that fact. I will never forget attending my first superintendent's meeting at Western Hills when Dr. Tuttle was at the helm. Now, understand, I don't know anybody in the state other than the Great Plains folks, and we attended the first meeting. I'm not sure the topic that was being discussed, but what I did remember was one of the superintendents was actually standing on a chair in the room so he could be heard. And some of you will understand who that person was. All the superintendents expressed their beliefs with passion, but at the end of the session, either Bruce, Mike, or Roy would comfortably bring the discussion to a manageable level, with Dr. Tuttle saying, "Thank you for all your input. Now this is what we're going to do." And you will all agree with that decision. And there was not a discussion with anybody. At that point, it was over with. And it was obvious that Dr. Tuttle valued everyone's viewpoints, but there was no question who was leading the state in CareerTech at that point. I've had the opportunity to serve as an administrator at 3 technology centers, Connor State College under President Dr. Ron Garner, and the Oklahoma Department of CareerTech. And I was also privileged to teach classes in the College of Education at Oklahoma State University with Dr. Mary Self. What a group of exceptional experiences. I will recommend, though, as a first-year superintendent at Indian Capital, if you're going to be a first-year superintendent, it always helps to have the Speaker of the House and the Speaker Pro Tem in your district. It was kind of like, what do you want? So at that point, that's pretty well the discussion. So it did help my year. I would not have been successful without support of my family, peers, and those who are part of my team. For those of you who have not met her, I'd like to introduce my wife, Judy. She's sitting over here. I think most of you know her. I kind of was joking tonight because people keep asking me, "Where's Judy?" I said, "I don't know. She's floating around here somewhere talking to people." Judy has had as many years in career and tech education as I have, and her last several years as an assistant superintendent at Central Technology Center. Our daughter Marla, sitting over here, is the director of college and career services at Union Public Schools. Nicole, who is here, customer business manager for Hormel Foods, and Jody is an office manager for a company in Castle Rock, Oklahoma. I'm glad that they were able to make it. The husbands and kids are doing school stuff, but I'm glad our family could make it. Judy and I are blessed to have 5 grandsons. Harrison is a senior at Princeton University. Grayson is a freshman at the University of Georgia. I apologize that we could not talk either one of them into coming to Oklahoma State, but life goes on. Also twins, Braden and Carson, who are in the 8th grade, and Ryder, who is in the 4th grade. And Ryder rules the family. He tells everybody what to do and how to do it, and being in 4th grade. And last but not least, our 2 sons-in-laws, Matt Witt and Chris Hodge. I'll get this figured out. I do, though, and I'm going to take a little pride here. I have 5 individuals who have supported me in various positions in CareerTech for a long period of time and in several positions and several either at the Technology Center or the State Department, and I'm going to introduce those people and take a minute, if I could. Rhonda Foote, I think a lot of you will know these people. Is that Rhonda? Donna Metcalf, Donna's sitting at our table there. Karen Talbot, Karen's over here, and Gina Hubbard. And I don't know where he went. Jeff Huffman, where are you sitting? Somewhere? Back over there? Okay. It has been great to have them as part of my team and to watch them succeed in their personal and professional lives. In summary, I cannot express enough how privileged I am to be a part of the Oklahoma CareerTech system. And I thank Jim for getting me into that system. And I am thankful for the support everyone has shown me. I am honored to be recognized tonight with the other 5 honorees and to be included as a member of the Oklahoma CareerTech Hall of Fame. Thank you.
And just for the record, I merely suggested he stop tapping his foot. He was the one who took off his shoes. I had nothing to do with that.
Congratulations once again to Dr. Joe Robinson. And now, last but certainly not least, we have our 6th inductee of the evening, Jack Statz. Born in 1951, Jack Statz grew up on a farm between Laverne and Buffalo. He was known as a young man of many talents at Laverne High School.
I was involved in athletics, and the other thing I got involved in is I got into vocal music kind of by accident. I was in a musical or two in high school, and so I had an opportunity to go a vocal scholarship to attend to a university. And so I was either going to decide between vocal music and agriculture education, which that's kind of a weird mix.
Lucky for us, he resisted the call of the Footlight Parade, and agricultural education ultimately won out in setting him on his path.
My ag teacher was Fred Schultz, and at the time I knew him as Mr. Schultz, but as he became Dr. Schultz, that was the superintendent at Meridian Technology Center. I guess very enthralled with what he did and the example he set and the mentorship he had for me, and I guess a little bit to the fact I just wanted to be what he was doing. I wanted to be part of that.
Statz was a freshman and sophomore class president at Oklahoma Panhandle State University, where he was involved in livestock judging and rodeo. Panhandle, however, didn't offer an ag ed degree, so Statz transferred to OSU in 1971.
Thought I'd come to OSU, get my degree, get my master's, and I actually even had a fellowship to work on my doctorate. I thought I'd just stay and work, and about 3 days before my fellowship's supposed to start, I was in summer school. I got a phone call and said, your fellowship is not going to be funded this year. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I need a job.
Statz reached out to the state agency for that job, teaching ag ed at Freedom and Buffalo for a handful of years before landing at Alva.
I've always heard that, and I know you have too, that if you find that thing that's special to you, you'll never work another day in your life if you find that love and that passion. And too much of the time we have teachers go, oh, you don't want to be a teacher. I tell young people, you want to be a teacher, because what else can you do and make a bigger difference?
That passion would carry him for 30 years at that school. Afterwards, Statz was called up to become the State Supervisor of Agricultural Education and the Oklahoma State FFA Advisor from 2007 to 2020. Rather than talk about his many accomplishments during his tenure, Statz credits any success to those who worked alongside him.
Always had a huge belief that you need to surround yourself with good people. And man, I was surrounded by good people. I mean, I had so many good district guys at the time. I had an executive secretary. I had administrative assistants that were so good. They took somebody that was kind of green to the agency, and they helped me, help mold me and kind of get me shaped up so that my beliefs and my thought process could continue in the state agency. So I was very fortunate to have those great people around me.
Stats teaching honors at the state and national level are almost too numerous to list. Evidence of a career well stewarded. Since his retirement in 2020, Stats has focused squarely on his family in Alva.
I've got to spend a little bit more time with grandkids, spend a little bit more time with my wife, be around her more. I was so fortunate I'm married a great lady that has been extremely supportive, extremely patient, extremely enduring. Absolutely blessed us with 3 wonderful kids that all of them have good jobs, all of them work hard, and they in turn blessed us with 7 grandkids that I just love to sit and laugh and watch them. I think that CareerTech programs are so important to, because I want my grandkids to be part of it, because I saw the difference that it made.
If you ask Jack Stats about his legacy, he's likely to defer to the many other people he worked with throughout his career. Effectively, his mantra has always been, surround yourself with good people.
I've been so proud watching my students that have come out of my program. Eventually, when I was teaching high school, that, God, they did things that was incredible. And I don't know that I would sit there and say that I was responsible, but I just wanted to say that, hey, I know that I was one of the people that helped. And so by being part of that and watching those young people grow, what else could you have? You know, what could be a better legacy or a better thought process to say that in everything I did, I tried not to tear it up and tried to make it better and tried to respect what had happened before me. And because that respect that had happened before me, I wanted to continue to set standards and ideals about the next step that was going to happen.
Congratulations to Jack Stats, 2024 inductee into the CareerTech Hall of Fame. Give it up for Jack Stats!
Man, my kind of banquet, kind of short. Thing you need to realize, no chicken. I love that more than anything. Mr. Boggs, you remember we talked about banquets. I said, God, no chicken, don't do chicken. And thank you, Connie. Thank you very much. I'd also tell you guys, I look around this room and I see the age of the room. Connie, respectfully, there needs to be a break in here somewhere. I mean, at my age, Connie, the only thing standing between me and the bathroom is my speech. It's not going to be that long. Guys, I'm just going to tell you without any question, I thank goodness. Thanks the committee. Phil, thank you so much for everything you guys have done. Thank you for even mentioning me in the aspect of trying to be in the Hall of Fame. I sat here earlier and I looked through those pictures, amazed of some of those people and the influence that they had on me in my life. And I'm just sitting there going, man, I knew those people. I knew what they did for me. I knew what they did for all of us. Tickle me to death. And to be even considered, to even be mentioned as part of that, I am in such respect. I'm so humbled. Phil, thank you very much. And guys, I will just tell you very simple. I want to say thank you. On behalf of receiving this, I want to say that I'm receiving this on behalf of the many students, agriculture education, and just students in the state of Oklahoma that walked into a classroom and had the opportunity for a CareerTech teacher to be part of their life and to change their life, to mold their life, to make them into something. My ag teacher, the first time I got up to speak, he said, "You need to go outside, you're about to faint." He came back in a year later. He said, "I couldn't get you to speak, and now I can't get you to shut up." But what an influence Fred Schultz had on my life. I'm thankful for that. Still has an influence on my life. I wish he could be here tonight. He said he had COVID. And dadgummit, I'm saying prayers for him. I hope that works, and I hope that he comes out of it on a great opportunity for him to advance in his life, because I love him to death. I'd also sit here, guys, and tell you that I'm thankful for my parents. You know, my parents, I was raised really kind of two principles. I had a mama that I didn't have a golden spoon. I had a tamarack switch that got used on me. I didn't use it on anybody else. I had a dad that, you know, he answered one question to me, and I'm telling you, maybe the greatest answer that anybody's ever given me about anything. He said, you know, son, there's 10 commandments. He said, there's a period after each one of them. He said, there's not a question mark. There's not a what if, you know, in case of, and you know, like I use so many times, but what if, no, there's not one of those either, son. So he was pretty blunt on it. I'm thankful for that kind of respect and that kind of an opportunity to be raised. Guys, I'm going to tell you too that I'm so thankful that I got to be an ag teacher. You know, part of that deal we talked about earlier about if you find something you love, you'll never do anything else. I didn't think I was going to teach ag about 3 years. I made a massive mistake. My first year of ag, I fell in love with teaching ag. I couldn't leave, didn't want to, had opportunities to go, didn't want to. I thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened. You know, I saw a little statement that Elon Musk made here the other day, and it was about his finances, but it said, I never invested in anything that didn't have something to do with affecting people. Man, I just sat there and I thought, God, that guy was a teacher. What an opportunity. And guys, I guess as I move on and sit here, I'm thankful of all the ag teachers that surrounded me when I got a job. I think I had Eddie Smith, Don Rudy, I had Wayne Demick. I'm telling you, I got phone calls every day. My name was not Mr. Stats, my name was Pup. Call me, hey, Pup, did you get that done? No, I didn't. Well, what are you doing? You know, and the biggest mistake I ever made, Phil, was inviting Don Rudy and Wayne Demick to my first FFA banquet. Oh, what a mistake. Only time that I ever forgot the advisor's part, ever. They were sitting about 6 feet behind me. And one of them, actually, when I got through, he went, damn rookie. I never forgot my part again. And I will promise you, I am so respectful to the ag teachers that I grew up around and with. Guys, you have no idea what the ag division was like when I started. Some of these young ones, Randy will sit here, I'm telling you, guys, in this very room right here, I mean, if you crossed what was happening in the ag division, you were not long in the profession. I will assure you, we had a gentleman move in here and refuse to join the Pete Gailey plan one day. And in this very room, I can remember summer conference. We're in this room. My buddy and I are sitting over in the corner. We're kind of hiding. We have a meeting up here, and I'm telling you, you did, oh, baby, when you were rookies, you did nothing. You did not say anything. They said, this gentleman has decided he would like to be back in part of the Pete Gailey plan. You know that our rules say that that is not possible. We need to vote. Guys, what happened next? I left, they said, all in favor of letting him back in the Pete Gailey plan, please stand. He was the only one that stood up. They said, all opposed. Everybody stood up. And guys, I can remember this. If I die today, I'll remember it. Everybody turned around and looked at him. I told my buddy, never will I ever do anything to cross this organization. Never, never. And you know what? Hopefully I didn't. In this very room right here, I got introduced to Dr. Tuttle. Leonard Hunter brought me here and introduced me to Dr. Tuttle and said, I think maybe you're going to do something one of these days. Stats, get dressed up. I'm going to take you. And he takes me up there, and I put a suit on. I come up here again in this room, having a social. Dr. Tuttle there, he introduces me to Dr. Tuttle. And as soon as he gets finished talking to Dr. Tuttle, he starts chewing Dr. Tuttle out. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm dead. I'm fired. I don't know what I'm going to do for a job, but I'm going to have to find another one because I'm done. And we leave, and I said, I can't believe you did that. And Hunter said, Dr. Tuttle, he's my brother-in-law. And I'm terrified. But guys, I want to also thank my family. I've already done that. I also want to sit there and say that same woman in that film that I said that I loved, and that I sat there and said that she raised that great family and helped us establish a family. That's also the same woman that I had been retired from the state agency about 3 weeks and was at home spending some time with my wife, and she said, you need to find a job. Well, that's the same woman. My cousins are sitting over here. My family, they're my brothers and sisters. They may be my cousins, but I thought of them as my brothers and sisters. Our mamas were sisters, and we just ate out of the same pot and the whole deal, no problems. Everything was great. I think of all my friends. I look at my group, my buddies from ICV over there that I have grown so close to over the years. They're here. I think of my buddies now and my cohorts, colleagues from Northwestern Oklahoma State University that's here that I teach a few classes with. Guys, I still kind of teach a few, really. I didn't this week. I was at Tulsa. But anyway, and I was going to say, don't tell Dr. Meyer, but he's sitting back. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting that. But guys, I'm going to tell you, I thank you for every person, every young kid that ever walked through a building, ever sat there and thought they needed a dream or had a dream or was going to create a dream. Somebody worked on it, somebody acted on it, and somebody took care of it. I think, and guys, I'll also tell you this. We interviewed, when I was state supervisor, we entered a black gentleman, the last ag teacher, the last NFA advisor in the state of Oklahoma, and he was 92 years old. And you know what he said? I could still remember it. In a quote, he said, you know what you need? You need passion. That's exactly what he said. And guys, CareerTech has passion. The people that came before us developed an opportunity. They created an organization that is a standalone. There's not many of those in the world that a CareerTech standalone operation. That guys, they actually have the opportunity to run their business. Thank God for that. I just appreciate the fact that they had that ability to plan that and to come forward with that and to do that. I also sat there, guys, and say, Mr. Boggs, I told him tonight, I said, guys, I scared him to death. Do all of you know Kent Boggs? Kent Boggs this is black and this is white. This gray is pretty limited. Kent, my first FFA state convention, and I didn't mean to do it. I'm kind of a loose cannon. But we're sitting there, don't say amen, that's not right, Phil. But he says, Jack, next week's, about 2 weeks state FFA convention. I said, yeah, I do. He said, you're supposed to speak. Have like 2.5 minutes. Yeah, I do. If you would bring me that speech, I'll put it down and I'll put it in the script. I said, I don't have it written yet. I'm not going to write a speech. He said, do what? And you know what? I don't know how many times he told me, but he said, Jack Stats, you're killing me. But also, guys, somebody that I want to make sure I didn't forget. I had the opportunity to go from the field as an ag teacher and go to the State Department to be state supervisor, and I had some district people that were phenomenal. I mean, I had administrative assistants. They took care of just the person that didn't know enough to be there, but he was. I appreciate what they did. I let them have their job. I let them do it. And you know what? By gosh, they did a great job. and they made me look better than what I was. And I thank them for that. I would tell you without any question, the inductees in front of me, there's only a couple of statements that I want to leave you with that I think were false. Tom Friedman, you said that you'd been to all those summer conferences. There's not a teacher in here that doesn't know that superintendents never attend meetings at summer conference. Now, Friedman, you know that. There's not a teacher in here that, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't know you till tonight. You could have been the boss. Why would anybody think you weren't the boss? I mean, and I'm going to tell you, women, you just well quit telling us you're the boss. We already knew it. Okay? But guys, thank you for the opportunity. Congratulations to my cohorts. And guys, how humbled, how honored I am to be there. Good evening. I hope you have a good opportunity. Please don't stop and visit with me for a little bit. Thank you so much.
Jack, I'll be going back and looking at the office and some of your safety checklist that you didn't pass. And you know which one. On behalf of the Oklahoma Department of CareerTech, the Oklahoma Association of CareerTech, I want to thank you all for showing up tonight for our 2024th year Hall of Fame banquet. These 6 inductees are excellent examples of what our organization has in it and produces. I want to thank the sponsors for all that. And have you told them not to forget their?
I will.
Oh, you will. Okay. But we touch lives and we change people, hopefully to be lifelong learners and to be hard workers. That's one thing we can be proud of. And those 6 individuals that we've had up here tonight are tremendous examples of what this state has in it for leadership. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much. We extend a heartfelt thanks and congratulations to our honorees this evening. And stop and talk to Jack and ask him questions.
And now that I know that I am between you and the bathroom, I'll make it short. 2 housekeeping pieces of information. If you have a sponsor banner, please take it with you. And if you would like to take home the centerpieces on your table, we kind of made a rule that if your outfit matches the centerpiece, you get it by default. But if not, rock, paper, scissors, whatever it takes. But we do want someone to enjoy those centerpieces after tonight. So please help yourself or fight over it, whatever it takes. Safe travels, and please enjoy the rest of your evening.